Okay, everybody, I'm going to get started. My name is Natalia Spiger. I'm with the creative group from Miami, Florida. And today we have a very special situation because we collectively want to help all the job seekers that are, on the prowl right now looking for their next amazing opportunity. So we're trying to make sure that you guys have all the tools and tips and techniques that we have proven to be effective during times like this, and more importantly, to help you position yourself in a way that is going to, call the right attention and make you seem like the good fit that you are for the position that you're interested in. So I do have the recruiters from the creative group joining me here. We also are partnering with the American Marketing Association of South Florida. So I'll turn it over to Amy Knox, who is their VP of Communications, so that she can introduce herself. Thank you again for joining, and I will continue to let people join the call. Thanks again.
Thanks, Natalia. I really appreciate it. And thanks for partnering TCG. This is a great platform for us to help during, a very concerning time for a lot of people. But thank you all for joining us today. My name's Amy Knox. I am the VP of Communications for the American Marketing Association here for South Florida. If you don't know, the AMA, we're a very national community. I think we actually have some offices in Canada as well, or I guess communities. But we're a national community of marketers with local chapters for all of us to learn, grow, share, and really help advance the industry of marketing. So I'm excited to be here to help with the conversation, and hopefully I can help answer any questions as we need to. So that's it for me, but I wanted to pass it over to Jonathan Layton, who's going to be kicking us off with our presentation today. So thanks everybody and welcome.
Awesome. Thanks, Amy. And thank you all for joining today's call. So a little bit of an intro about me. I'm the Division Director of Recruiting for TCG, which is part of the Robert Half Company. We handle everything within web design, graphic design, copywriting, social media, PR, you name it, we do it type of thing, but everything within the digital media world. Last year alone, I successfully placed over 125 candidates across different verticals and industries for companies of all sizes, SMBs, as well as a few enterprise level and Fortune 500 level clients. I've been with the company over 3 years now, time flies, which has given me some great insight into the overall Miami market, or just Florida market in general. And I'm very excited to, share some of that insight with you guys today. So without further ado, let's go ahead and kick it off. So today's presentation is all about navigating your career during COVID-19. As you can imagine, things are a little hectic now, but hopefully we can bring some peace of mind to your marketing efforts. So this is all about you guys, branding yourself and putting yourself in the best possible position in order to land new opportunities and overall just put your best foot forward. So it's about creating a personal brand for yourself. So what you want to do is think about your core strengths. What sets you apart from other candidates? You should consistently be practicing and tweaking your elevator pitch. The goal is always obviously to be learning new skills, new softwares, new applications. So this will cause your elevator pitch to evolve over time. But essentially you want to be able to hone all of this within 30 seconds. You never know who you're going to meet, where you're going to meet them, and when you're going to meet that person. That could be the difference maker in you landing a new opportunity. So you want to be able to consolidate your profile in a 30-second to a minute time frame. So you need to show potential employers like what value you're bringing to their team, and a lot of people do that with a ROI story or a return on investment story. This is something that you guys want to have ready and prepared pre-interview. This should be practiced and rehearsed. A couple examples for different skill sets for designers, for example. So potentially a designer that designed a new e-commerce site for a client that helped lower their bounce rate 8%. And bounce rate, just for a little bit more insight, is essentially the percentage of visitors who enter a site and then leave after a few seconds rather than continuing to surf the rest of the website. This can happen because of poor images, slow loading, just a bad look and feel. So that could be a great return on investment point to add to the resume. Within digital marketing, for example, could be running a paid campaign that increase, a client's overall web traffic, increase their conversion percentage, or just, at the end of the day, increase their overall sales, which is something that clients are always looking for. essentially, the name of the game is to create a compelling and consistent brand that does just that and helps you build relationships with potential hiring managers. So a little fun fact, 55% of executives surveyed said they found gimmicky job search tactics to be unprofessional. So, I mean, think about something like sending a potential employer a pair of shoes to get your foot in the door. I know that sounds crazy, but you would be surprised as to some of the stories that we've heard in our time here. So just something to keep in mind for sure. Your personal brand needs to be authentic, it needs to be truthful, and it needs to be relevant to the company you're applying to. At the end of the day, an interview is a two-way street. It's them interviewing you to make sure that you're a good fit, but also you're interviewing them to make sure that they align with your core values and what you're looking for down the line. So, this isn't about creating a gimmick. It's about taking an inventory of your skills, your work style, your personality, and being very self-aware about your strengths and weaknesses so that you can position yourself accordingly. So, figuring out what those existing qualities are and how they might be able to benefit companies meet, their business goals or just add to their overall bottom line. Most hiring managers have seen it all. So an unusual bid for attention is likely to come off as unprofessional. So keep that in mind as well. Instead, consider following tactics to help you stand out. Some of them are obvious, but you'd be surprised as to how many people don't take advantage of them. Some of them being, researching the company. When were they founded? What specific brands do they own? What were some of the top initiatives and campaigns from this year and last year? This shows that you took extra time to go the extra mile and learn about the company, what they're doing, and essentially what they stand for. Next, you always want to use a good reference, someone who will speak positively on your behalf. Being able to grab a positive testimonial from a manager is huge. It adds credibility to your profile because now you're not the only person talking about how amazing you are. So when other people are talking about your great profile and what you bring to the table, it adds that authority and kind of backs up what you're already telling a hiring manager. So, making sure to speak with your references prior and even going in depth, it's like, all right, if he was about to, if he was going to ask you about my day-to-day, what would you tell him? If he was going to ask you about my top 3 strengths, what would you tell him? And making sure that you and your reference are on the same page so that you can be set up for success. Also asking insightful questions during the interview. And just as important is asking post-interview questions. This is definitely something that hiring managers love. And you always get to that point in the interview, everyone gets nervous in interviews. We get it. And, you want to get in, speak well, get out as quickly as possible. But, at that juncture, when a hiring manager is like, oh, do you have any questions for me? Worst thing you could do is say no and walk out the door. What you want to do is come up with 2 or 3 questions that are going to, again, show that you took the time to research the company and also asking questions that are going to help prepare you for the role should they choose you. A few examples, so Mr. Hiring Manager, what are you expecting out of this position by the end of my first year? How many campaigns would you have wanted me to be a part of? How many projects should I have managed? How many, creative deliverables should I have designed? How many deals should I have closed? Things of that nature. Another potential question is, what are some qualities of your most recent hire and why were they successful? This is going to give you some insight as to the soft skills that this potential hiring manager is going to look for. So this is going to give you a lot more insight as to kind of the personality of the team and the overall hiring manager. Because again, you want to make sure that you're not only a technical fit for the role, but also a culture fit. I mean, at the end of the day, we work a lot more than we're in our house. Maybe not now, but before all of this, and we're spending, 8 to 10 hours a day, depending on the job. So you want to make sure that you can get along and mesh with your hiring manager, but also the team around them. Another great question, example to go with is, are there any skills and responsibilities needed for this role that I haven't gone over or can elaborate on? And what this does, if the hiring manager is like, no, I think you've gone over everything, this kind of further instills that you have all the technical capabilities in order to execute on the job. And if there was something that he wanted you to go over in more depth, then, you know, you go over that on the spot and you cure any worry that he may have had. But this gives you a leg up over that candidate that may have been like, you know, when he asked, do you have any more questions? And he's like, nope, I'm out, bye. You know, this gives you that leg up on that because you were able to clarify any about any potential skill set that he may be looking for. Finally, one great thing also to help set yourself apart is writing a handwritten thank you note versus an email. This alone could be the difference maker between two evenly matched candidates that are on the same level, but one candidate decided to take the time and literally a handwritten note, what is, 5 minutes of your time, but that literally could have been the entire difference of you getting the job versus the other guy. So definitely another great tidbit to keep in mind. Next, we want to focus on our core attributes as a person and as a candidate. What are the best skills and qualities that I possess? A great exercise to help you figure this out is to create a one-page brief about yourself. A targeted message, essentially it's a targeted qualifications and career aspirations. So what you want to do is list everything you have to offer to an employer on a sheet of paper. So what I would do essentially is, get a blank sheet and just kind of use like free association and write down anything that comes to mind. Don't overthink it. Just kind of whatever floods your mind, go ahead and get it down on a sheet of paper. And then, after 10, 15, 20 minutes, when you kind of have everything laid down, you're going to cut out all the fluff. You're going to find the 5 to 10 diamonds in the rough. And then essentially that's what you're going to use as your core attributes and what you're going to project and talk about with potential hiring managers. So now we get into communication and the priority of it. So like, what are some of the most important things for you to get across to a hiring manager, and in what order? So, you want to list 2 to 3 of the most important things you want to get across, and keep it short and simple. An example is getting to these soft skills. So, that I'm a team player, that you're creative and open to new ideas, that you have relevant experience that matches the job description, and how those skills are going to translate into the job and what he's looking for. And a big one that I definitely always love to share in interviews, or I tell my candidates to share in interviews, is that you're willing to go above and beyond, and in terms of job responsibilities that are not necessarily on the job description. Anyone that's willing to work outside of what is typically handed to them are the ones that get raises, tend to get promoted, and are seen as those top level players in an organization. So definitely something to keep in mind as well. These qualities are the things that make up your personal brand. And if you're struggling imagine talking to a VP of a company where you've always wanted to work, and what's the most important impression that you would want to leave? That you're curious and outgoing, knowledgeable about the industry, that I'm a hard worker and I go above and beyond. You got to figure out exactly how you want to position yourself to potential hiring managers. So just a few more things to keep in mind.
Hey, Johnny, can you hear me?
I can indeed.
Yes, it's Amy. I just wanted to also reiterate in regards to the communication and what you mentioned something very very important about being succinct and being not too verbose, right? I think when you see that your resume has a ton of paragraphs, or when you start noticing that you're talking too much in an interview, making sure that you kind of catch yourself a little bit to kind of stop that, because when somebody looks at your resume and sees a whole bunch of paragraphs, they get a little overwhelmed to read it. And would you guys agree?
100%. You nailed it, Amy. And Anuka's going to dive a little bit more in depth into structure and all that as well. But thank you for catching that, and definitely something to keep in mind as well.
Yeah, I loved how you said that. So that was great.
Appreciate it. So goals, career aspirations. Your personal brief is also the place to outline, your job search goals. Break this down into measurable steps by figuring out your ultimate goal, and then reverse engineering, what that goal is, and figuring out what you have to do to get from where you are now to where you want to go. Now, one way to do this is by finding people that have already accomplished what you're looking to do. and then seeing what their track record was. What was their path? What was their trajectory? How did they bounce from company to company, or did they kind of, ride with one company over a period of, 5 to 10 years? And honestly, you would be surprised as to how many people are willing to help you. So if you, for example, are looking for people that have done something similar to what you're looking to accomplish, reach out to those people. Honestly, LinkedIn message, email, phone, whatever it is, you would be surprised as to how many people are willing to help and just give a lending hand. I mean, these people that are in these positions that have accomplished all of these things, at that point in their career, they're looking to give back. They remember being the underdog, and they remember being that guy that was just looking for that first person to give them a break and to catch a break. So I remember, back in the day, I owned a clothing line. And when I first started, I would on Instagram just DM photographers and models and tell them like, hey, I'm just starting out. Essentially, I don't have any money to pay you, unfortunately, but I'm willing to give you like free clothes or whatever it is, shout your page out. I love your page. I would appreciate just your consideration. Honestly, 8 out of 10 of these guys were getting back to me like, dude, of course. I remember when I first started, I would love to help you out. Send over the clothes. Here's my address. I got you. And it's just a fear of, people thinking that they're not going to get back to you. But I promise you, a lot more people are going to get back to you than you really think. So taking the time to find those mentors or find those elite level people within your category for whatever you're trying to do, reach out and ask them, how did they get to where they are today? And again, you'd be surprised as to how many people are, would be open to share that with you. What you also want to be doing, especially during COVID-19, is attending virtual networking groups, at least, once a month. And you could find these all over LinkedIn. There's different groups. Sure to check that out as well as we continue to navigate in our new virtual world, and making sure to just stay active on LinkedIn. I mean, updating like your statuses, posting content, commenting on other people's content. The more that your name is out there, the more the hiring managers see your name, the better chance that you're going to have to get a potential opportunity, or at least get your foot in the door with a hiring manager. And from there, it's on you to sell yourself to the company. And so next is just kind of that overall core belief. Define your brand, apply it consistently across all of your job search materials. So your resume and your LinkedIn should match, social media in general should match. Think about how your personal brief translates into the look, feel, and content of all your brand elements. Some things to consider, does your resume reflect your core attributes and the priority of your communication? What we went over previously. Will employers find consistency in your LinkedIn profile and your resume? One great thing to do is always ask like colleagues and mentors for recommendations that help reinforce your core attributes. As we know, we tend to ask our families a lot, for their opinion, but they love us. So they're always going to give us a biased opinion. So reaching out to third-party people, friends, even friends, I mean, that's, still they're going to show you love. So it's really reaching out to colleagues and, potential people that don't know you, but that are an authority in their domain or in their industry, and asking them their 2 cents on your resume, on your core brief worksheet that you created. So that they can give you an unbiased opinion and provide any type of recommendations or optimizations, that could help you out in just further solidifying your profile. This goes back to creating that 30-second elevator pitch that matches your brief. Again, something that you want to say in the mirror, say in the car, leave yourself a voicemail. This is a great tactic that we use at Robert Half all the time, is leaving yourself a voicemail so that you can hear what you sound like, and then make your tweaks and, changing your pitch from there. Because you hear yourself when you're speaking, obviously, but when you hear yourself kind of from a third party on a voicemail, you're going to get a very different perspective on what the overall messaging was. So that is a great tactic to take advantage of as well. So that wraps up my portion of the presentation. I do want to thank you guys again for your time. I am now going to pass it over to Anuka, who's going to get into some resume tips and tricks.
Guys, I'm Anuka. Like Johnny, I'm part of the creative group. I am on the permanent placement side, so direct hire. Very happy to be here, a resource for you guys during this time. And one of the questions that I've been hearing a lot from candidates is, how do I market myself? Specifically in regards to my resume. How do I make sure that I stand out? I know that hiring managers are receiving so many resumes in this moment. How do I make sure that mine is seen and stands out amongst the rest? So first of all, starting with social media and your personal brand, we want to make sure that this aligns with the brand that you have on your resume. So making sure that you are looking at your Twitter, your LinkedIn, your Facebook, Instagram as well, and aligning the image that you have, your professional brand, with your personal brand as well. You'd be surprised at how much of this sometimes the hiring managers do see. You never know. So making sure that everything you have on social media aligns with the vision and the goal that you have in terms of your career is definitely very, very important. So prepare your social media and your personal outlets aside as well. And going into the resumes, you know, there's 3 different kinds of resumes. One, and the most common that we probably see, is chronological. Johnny, if you want to go, perfect. So definitely it's very important for your resume to be set up chronologically, starting with the most recent position that you just had on the top. So starting there and then going back so that the hiring manager can kind of see a little bit about what you've been doing, and detailing in bullet points exactly what you were doing in those roles, starting with the most recent, is important. Sometimes I have received resumes that are opposite and they start with the first position on top, and it's confusing for the hiring manager to see that, and it's just not as streamlined as keeping it chronologically. Then we also have functional. So functional resumes highlight more your actual skill sets. This is definitely more handy for people who are starting off in the industry. So if you've had internships in the past and this is your first real career move, highlighting those functional skill sets is going to be important, and highlighting the things that you've learned in your university or the different internships that you've had is going to help you out in this type of resume. And lastly, my personal favorite when I am receiving resumes from candidates is a hybrid. And this is going to be an outline of the experience that you've had in chronological order, as well as highlighting those functional skill sets that you've had. You can put them on top, you can put them on the side, but keeping those skill sets, whether it be different platforms that you use. If you're a designer, if you want to mention that you are proficient in Adobe Creative Suite or DaVinci Resolve, whatever it may be, mentioning that in the functional skill sets, as well as listing the actual roles that you've had in the past, I think is definitely going to help you stand out when the hiring managers are looking at your resumes. In regards to the actual things that you include in your resumes, what is essential? First of all, we want to make sure that we're always being honest. It's important to mention the things that you've done and be clear. Sometimes people are like, I don't want to brag. Make sure that you are saying everything that you're doing. We do want to see exactly what you've done. I want to see what have you achieved. ROI is super important. If you can include numbers and actual ways that you have helped the company. I saved X amount of dollars or X amount of time. Time and money is really important to mention in the resume. Make sure that it's easy to understand and that it flows well. So maybe you have different paragraphs or different colors, and making sure that it's visually pleasing is also important. Customized. You know, if you want, especially in the creative space, making sure that it's customized to your personal brand and creative is definitely important as well. Many companies also are, you know, they're, like I mentioned before, receiving a lot of resumes. So this is going to be your first impression for the company. Making sure that it is visually pleasing is important as well. Must-haves, like I mentioned before, ROI and key numbers that you've helped the company improve on time and money is definitely important. Show measurable results and the impact of your efforts towards the company. Spell these out wherever you can. Again, visually appealing. Create a professional design that matches the brand that you have worked so hard to achieve. Make sure that your resume is clean, that it's readable, etc. If your resume has errors in it, it's definitely going to be an immediate red flag for the hiring manager. So make sure that you have reviewed your resume various times. You've done spell check. If you want to send it to your family or your friends to make sure that there's no typos in there, I definitely recommend doing so. The worst is having a stupid mistake mess up all the effort that you've put into to work towards finding that next position. And lastly, follow-ups. So again, they are receiving a lot of resumes, and have no shame in following up with the hiring managers. Actually, a little fun fact, 100% of HR managers said that job candidates should contact hiring managers within 2 weeks of applying for a job. So definitely going and following up with an email to the hiring manager, something like, you can put something in the subject like resume follow-up or project assistant job candidate in the subject line, get their attention, and then briefly recap your qualifications, why you're interested in the job, and then I would close by asking if you can set up an interview. It definitely helps to attach your resume again, even though I'm sure you attached it when you first applied to the job online. Attaching it again and reminding them of who you are, not only does it makes it easier for them, how active you are, and initiative. So definitely recommend attaching your resume, and don't be ashamed to follow up. I think obviously it's really important and shows how interested you are in the position. So that does wrap up my segment. Thank you guys for listening. Again, so happy to be a resource for you guys, and I'm gonna pass it along to Leah. Oh, I see a question coming in. Is 2 pages okay? I'm glad you asked. Yes, absolutely. I would say that it's a common misconception. A lot of people think that you have to keep your resume to 1 page. I think that 1 page is amazing. If you can get it to fit on 1 page and still create that visually appealing resume, then go ahead and do so. But a lot of people do have a lot to bring to the table. 2 pages on a resume, I think, is absolutely okay. All right, so Leah, I'll let you take it from here.
Awesome. Thank you, Anuka. Hi, everyone. My name is Leah Filer. I am on the freelance contract to hire team with Johnny, but I also work really closely with Anuka as well. And thank you so much for making it this far through the webinar. I'm going to run you through the last bit here, mainly about brand building online, social media presence, everything like that. So to start off, I'm going to start with, personal websites. Everyone I talk to, I say you should have your personal website. It's a living, breathing, space that has all of your up-to-date work, all of your, whether you're a graphic designer, whether you're a copywriter, whether you do anything in the creative field, it's a great place to have everything. I know that sometimes people, use PDFs or have their files that they've been collecting everything on and updating. And that's great, but sometimes it's too big for employers to open. Sometimes it can't transfer all the way. You get lost in spam. Sometimes it's just too much work and the employers won't open it. So I always recommend just having an easy link that people can click and see everything you've worked on. And it's also great for when people are searching you. So you apply to a job, people are going to Google you. By having your own domain, by having your own website, you're owning the first search result of your name. It's showing potential employers that you have initiative. It's showing off all of your skills, your work experience, the brands you've worked with, and everything like that. And it's always a representation of you as well. So you want your website to be a design that reflects you, reflects your taste in design, everything like that, and really create a hub for your online presence. And then with social media, this slide says, focus your efforts on 1 or 2 of these main platforms. LinkedIn, I think, is a must. I think it's the best way to network with people. It's the best way to get your work out there. It's your best way to connect and share ideas and have conversations with people you wouldn't have the opportunity to, in person, let's say, especially during a time like this. So definitely take charge of your LinkedIn, make sure it's updated, make sure you're actively on there. Definitely post with, the appropriate frequency. You don't want to flood anyone's feed or anything like that, but you want to pop up once or twice a week, show that you're actively sharing things relevant to your field, show that you're up to date on all the recent trends, everything that's happening in your field. and definitely make sure to focus everything on your professional life and professional interests. Research with professionals in your field are doing, stuff like that. And then, yes, so treat social media as a conversation. You want, share your industry thoughts, post updates on your job search if you're currently unemployed. People want to hear and people want to help. Definitely post in a way that highlights your communication skills as well. Everything you post on there is what employers are going to look at and see if you're good at communication, if you have those skills you say you do, if you're positioning yourself as a professional. So, I mean, LinkedIn is everything. And give as much as or more than you're taking. So, engage with other people's content in a respectful way, comment, give feedback, give insight, follow and comment on industry blogs, become a regular on relevant message boards, respond to questions, cheer on your connections when they have a win, and definitely share job posts with others. The more you help others, the more they're going to help you back. And then existing contacts. Of course, your personal Rolodex is the most important. These are people that know you and you've worked with, or you've met through networking and stuff like that. So you definitely want to touch base once a quarter, share useful leads or information, email occasional updates. Request to be a contact on LinkedIn and keep up with them there. Just check in, especially during this time. Obviously not everyone's hiring, but you can at least check in and see how they're doing, see, if they're staying healthy, if they're staying safe, how their business is doing. Just reach out as almost like a friend. The friendlier and more personal you are, the more they're going to respond to you. And then let's dive into new contacts. Obviously, use this time to network actively on LinkedIn. And you might get that initial connect, and then a lot of people make the mistake of not following up. So within the next 2 days after connecting, just follow up again and be like, hey, it was great connecting with you. Thanks again. Would love to hop on a call with you. Or if you did hop on a call with them, follow up about the call. Include something specific about your conversation, just so it jogs their memory and they can remember that they had that meaningful personal conversation with you. And then video interviews. I know that everyone's having to deal with this a lot because obviously nothing's in person right now. So I'll just go through a few quick tips to have a successful video interview. Definitely pay attention to attire. Certain colors like orange, pink, red, those all cause a glare on the video. Stripes, herringbone patterns cause like a weird Moore effect. So you get all fuzzy and sometimes it makes you look bigger or smaller, and it's just distracting. And then check what's behind you. So your webcam will pick up a portion of the background. Make sure it's not messy, it's clean, it's not distracting. Know the technology. So always run a practice run with a friend to get comfortable with whether it's Zoom or Google Hangouts or something like that, because you don't want to log on and then your video not be able to turn on or your audio not work. It's always good to do a practice run. Avoid interruptions. If you're doing it at home, I know sometimes we have family with us, friends, dogs. I know that there are a lot of interruptions that can happen. Try and go to a room where you can close the door and just be in a silent place so you can focus, avoid anything interrupting your interview, and really have a great interview. And then make sure to look at the camera. I know it's hard now because we're not making face-to-face eye contact, but looking at the camera is the closest thing to that. So making sure you are virtually making eye contact still shows that you are confident in what you're saying, and you are going to be able to do that in person as well. Sit up straight, smile, just be yourself. And then let's move on to temporary work. I love to talk about this because this is what I do. I think that temp work is an amazing, amazing way to get your foot in the door with great companies, whether it's freelance or contract or even contract to hire. You never know where it will lead. You never know what network connections you'll make. And you never know what's going to lead to your next opportunity, or if that's your long-term opportunity. And it's an opportunity to build your skill set. And it's just, I think it's great to, even in this time, let's say you got laid off, obviously everyone wants that permanent opportunity. They want that security. This is a great way to fill in the gaps and meet the most amount of people you can, and work with great people, get those recommendations, and build your network in the best way possible. And that's about all I have. I'm going to pass it back to Johnny to go over some of your questions, and hopefully we can get you some answers.
Thank you, Leah, and thank you, Anuka, for awesome presentations. There was a few questions that we got pre-webinar that we want to go over. Leah, I'm not sure if you have that list, if you could just read out the questions just because my full screen is taking up both monitors.
Absolutely. One of the questions we got is, how do you navigate the number of skills employers seem to want these days?
Yeah, okay, so this is a great question, and it comes up a lot. As you've seen on your own, I'm sure, when applying to roles, I mean, clients nowadays are looking for the entire Rolodex of skill sets, expecting one candidate to have everything. And honestly, it's unrealistic. But a way to help you kind of navigate that is figure out kind of first if you want to be a jack of all trades or if you want to specialize in one lane. Now, bigger companies tend to have more employees, which means they tend to specialize more. So you're not doing as many things as at one time. Now, smaller companies, you're kind of having to wear a bunch of different hats because they just don't have the resources that an enterprise level company would have. So definitely something to keep in mind. If you are looking to be a jack of all trades, you would fare well in a smaller company, in an agency environment. If you're looking to be a master of your craft, going with a larger size company where you can specialize in that one thing will be a great way to help you kind of navigate between having one skill or focusing on one skill set or focusing on many.
Awesome. I'm trying to pull it up again. Sorry, your screen's taking up mine too. I know we have some questions in the Zoom group chat that I think are pretty relevant. We can hop into as well. I know from P. Grulo, we have, how do you recommend sharing work that you're not able to make public at the moment, but it's a great project?
So one thing that I've seen people do, and it really just depends, it'll be on a case-by-case basis. If there's an NDA signed, if a client told you, like, I'd rather you not share that type of work. A lot of what candidates will do is put a password protected project on their portfolio and then send that directly to the hiring manager, just the link to that one specific project, and then change the password after 24 hours so that no one can get back into it, but so that you're giving the opportunity to the hiring manager to be able to check out your most recent work. So yeah, having a password protected project on your portfolio would be a great way to showcase that work without giving out the goods to everybody.
Awesome. And then one of the questions we got beforehand too, we had, how do you showcase work if you don't have an online portfolio yet?
So that's a bit tough. So I remember when I first started, I would see a lot more PDF portfolios from graphic designers. The issue that we come across with that is companies tend to have spam filters. They tend to have limits on the size that an attachment can be for incoming emails. So it also kills the quality. The resolution may be super low. So I suggest getting an online portfolio because this, again, will be your one-stop shop, for all of your creative work or just, whatever it is that you're bringing to the table. If you're, a content manager, designer, digital marketer, whatever it may be, having that, that one stop shop for all of your skill sets, all of your work, all of the campaigns that you've been a part of is going to be key. There's Wix. Wix is a great free resource to use. It's a, drag and drop type of style website builder. You don't need to know any HTML, CSS, or anything along those lines. It's free if it's informational. If you do set up like a, e-commerce type of thing, then I know there's a monthly payment. But if you're just doing directing traffic, here's the work that I've done, it is a free resource to use. And I believe Squarespace also has a free component to their web platform. If you need to do a PDF for whatever reason, what you want to do is showcase 2 or 3 things of your best work. I mean, your best work, and then compress the file in a way where it's going to still send in high quality. One thing that I've also seen potentially is using WeTransfer. WeTransfer is essentially where you upload documents online, and then there's a download link that you could send to a hiring manager, and this will allow you to kind of bypass their email system just in case they have any type of firewalls or like limit sizes on size of attachment. WeTransfer could be another great tool to use to get your work over to a hiring manager.
Awesome. Thank you, Johnny. I see someone just asked if our group mainly focuses on Miami or do we help place in Fort Lauderdale as well. We handle all of South Florida, so West Palm Beach all the way down to Miami. We work with different companies through there and can help you for sure. And then just to hop into another question before our time runs out, I got one that says, what is the timeline of companies starting to hire again? More information on hiring freezes, layoffs, stuff like that. Johnny, feel free to jump in if you have advice too, but I know that it's depending on the companies. We're definitely starting to see an uptick in people hiring again, but it's very industry specific. So healthcare industries, finance industry, banking, stuff like that. It's not as glamorous as travel tourism. And I know that that was the main hub for us down in South Florida, but it's kind of just about readjusting your focus and targeting the right companies and the right roles. Johnny, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, in terms of timelines, tough to tell. If I could, I would be a millionaire. But a few things to consider while we're in this downtime is taking the time or taking advantage of the time to better your skill set. So if you're a digital marketer, getting Facebook Blueprint certified, getting certified within Google Analytics, Google Ads, YouTube, display, search, any type of Adobe Creative Suite certification or course you can take to, you could be someone that, I was okay at After Effects, Final Cut Pro, Premiere Pro. Take this time to take a course so that now on your resume, that's a skill that you could list out. In terms of timeline, I'm hoping, over the next, month or two, like Leah mentioned, we have seen an uptick. Clients are definitely being more receptive and looking to hire candidates. I would say, again, biggest thing is taking this time to, better yourself and what you bring to the table and the value that you can add to a company.
Awesome. And then I think we have time to squeeze one more question in. Anuka, if you want to jump in, how have you seen it affecting the Miami market versus elsewhere?
Yeah, completely. So I would say Miami, we do have a lot of tourist companies. We have Royal Caribbean, a lot of cruise line industry. So we've definitely been affected a lot in that sense. Luckily, we do also have a lot of healthcare companies, like Leah, you were saying, a lot of finance companies and banking. So it's about just adjusting the mindset and targeting the companies that are still seeing a lot of hiring. In fact, more than ever. In addition to that, a lot of e-commerce companies. So everybody's purchasing online right now. So focusing on companies that sell online and just rerouting the mindset. But like you all mentioned, I would say in the last week or so, I feel a major increase in hiring in Miami. So that's definitely a positive thing. And hopefully that continues to increase exponentially.
Definitely. Okay, I think we are going to run out of time at 1:45. Did anyone else want to hop in and say anything? Johnny, Natalia, Amy?
Just want to thank you guys for your time today. It was an absolute pleasure getting to share this information with you. After the call, we're going to send out some great material on free courses, other free webinars, just free additional resources for you guys to take advantage. And we're also going to send out all of our contact information so you can reach out to us all together individually on any additional questions that you may have. Feel free to share your resumes with all of us. We're here to help out to the best of our ability. And again, just want to thank you guys for taking the time out of your day to hang out with us at TCG.
Yes, thank you guys. And we're going to get to all of your questions in the Zoom group chat that we see and we didn't get to, and we'll include that in the email as well.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks everyone for joining. Have an amazing day, and hopefully this was very helpful. I appreciate the recruiters that led this, and thank you guys for giving it your all and for the wonderful tips. I appreciate your time.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye, everyone, and good luck on the hunt.
Thank you.